A beautiful day outside in Phoenix, Arizona, inside at the U.S. Airways Center. A capacity crowd expected as the Phoenix Suns try and get back in the top 8 teams of the Western Conference. Right now, they're just one game back of Memphis. San Antonio still in control. Lakers with a big victory over the Mavericks to pull within a half game as we head down the final month of the regular season. And an important one for Dwight Howard and the Magic as they look to get all together with all the new faces and Howard's brilliant season to get their best possible playoff positioning. Good afternoon, everyone. Along with Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy, Mike Breen on hand. Lisa Salters with us as well. As mentioned, Dwight Howard has been brilliant, and they are still, even with their ups and downs, Mark, one of the best teams in the NBA. And Stan Van Gundy feels they can still contend for a championship, but Howard needs help on a consistent basis if they're going to achieve those goals.
Oh, he absolutely does. And if you're the Orlando Magic, you point the finger directly at Jameer Nelson. He's got to be more consistent offensively. Was an all-star in the past. They need him to be aggressive, getting into the thick of the defense, creating offense and scoring. And then Turkoglu, got to be aggressive, got to be consistent. Get back to the Turkoglu of 2 years ago. They did not bring him back to average 10 points per game.
Meanwhile, for the Phoenix Suns, they're 13-6 in their last 19, so they're playing some good basketball. The rest of their schedule is brutal, and it starts today without Steve Nash. He's going to be out on a day-to-day basis, making Aaron Brooks, newly acquired, important today and for the rest of the season.
Well, Aaron Brooks has always played well as a starter. He has not performed well off the bench, and that's why people tend to forget. Just last season, he was the most improved player in the NBA. Look at those numbers. Almost 20 points a game, 40% from 3. Has not performed well this season because he's played mostly off the bench, but expect him with more minutes to play a very good game here today.
This will only be his 8th game in a Suns uniform after being acquired from the Houston Rockets. Let's take a look at our starting lineups, brought to you by Taco Bell. And for Stan Van Gundy's Magic, Howard, again, he is certainly deserving of MVP consideration. What a year he's had. Turkoglu and Bass up front, Jason Richardson and Jameer Nelson in the backcourt. And for the Phoenix Suns, Robin Lopez still the starting center. Brooks gets his first start in a Phoenix uniform with Carter and Hakeem Warwick, who's getting the starts because Channing Frye is out as well for Alvin Gentry. And our Spanish language version of today's game presented by ESPN Deportes. Use the SAP button on your television. So the home stretch of the regular season. You look at Orlando in 41-25, 4th in the East. They're 4 back of Miami. Going to be difficult for them to catch the Heat. They're 3 ahead of Atlanta. But more importantly than any number, they need to start playing good Magic basketball that's gotten to the conference finals each of the last 2 years, Mark, on a consistent basis.
And that's exactly what Stan Van Gundy talked about in our meeting earlier. It's going to boil down to which team is playing the best basketball when it matters most. And the objective for the Orlando Magic is to begin to play Magic basketball and knock down shots. This
has not been a friendly place for the Orlando Magic. The last 8 years they've been here, and they only play once a year. They've lost. Haven't won since 2001. Dwight Howard looking for his first victory in Phoenix. Goes right at Lopez. And a traveling violation. Now it looks like he got whacked on the way to the basket there.
And those are the calls that's got to be made. That's a big-time move by Howard. That's a force out by Lopez using the upper body. That's clearly a foul.
Carter on the pull-up. That shot short. Magic on the road this year, 17-14. This is the 3rd game of a 5-game trip. As Brandon Bass is short, they opened up the trip winning in Sacramento, and then they lost Friday in a tough overhome loss to Golden State as Brooks misfires. Brooks to Warwick. Warwick getting a chance to play without Frye, hits the side of the backboard, and we have seen a minute of ugly basketball. Channing Frye with the shoulder injury, still a couple of weeks away. Missing his 3rd game. He was playing maybe the best basketball of his young career. Really was starting to come on. Carter trying to draw the foul. Wild shot there, and Richardson the rebound. And Nelson. Boy, that's poor transition defense by the Suns.
And a good job by Dwight Howard of setting the screen on the ball, and Jameer Nelson coming right off of his body.
But we were grateful for the score after some of the early shots. This is a bit of a reunion game. Remember, this team had that trade back in December. A 6-player trade as Jason Richardson knocks down the 3.
I think they're all hugged out. I saw more pre-game hugs from the hour before the game. It literally made me sick to my stomach. I was like watching, like, are you guys getting ready to play or go have a reunion party? My goodness. Really, enough is enough with all this. They don't even like each other that much.
Lopez able to hit the shot. Phoenix gets on the board. There's actually 8 players on these rosters who played for both teams. Not only the 6 from that particular game, but you also have Grant Hill, who used to play in Orlando. There's a foul called on Lopez down low. So a lot of familiar faces. As for the first time today, we check in with Lisa Salters. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Mike. Well, Steve Nash isn't even on the Suns bench right now. He's still in the back doing some rehab. Inflammation of the pelvic joint is what's keeping him out of the lineup this afternoon. He describes it as being like a cross between a groin strain and an abdominal strain. He says it's quite sore. It even bothers him when he walks, and he says it really limits his mobility. Now, Mike, you know how difficult it is for Steve Nash not to be on the floor this afternoon, especially since the Suns are so close to that 8th spot in the West. But he says, I've really got to be careful with this. If I go out there and aggravate it and I'm less than myself for the stretch run, that is not going to help the team.
Yep, you're right, Lisa. Lopez blocks the shot and then gets the ball. Alvin Gentry was saying before the game that they should have sat him a while ago. Nash just tried to play through it. Brooks finding Warwick. Warwick inside, blocked by Dwight Howard. His 2nd rejection already. Richardson fires away. Fight for the rebound. And Carter. Nash, by the way, has not missed a lot of games over the years. And when he's missed, they have struggled, to say the least. Warwick can't hold on. Magic looking to push. Richardson flips it up and rolls off. Won't go.
Alvin Gentry really wants Aaron Brooks to play like he played in Houston. Aggressive, looking to score, instead of, the way he's playing right now is too tentative, too passive, and afraid to step on toes. He's a scorer.
He started the first, I think, 8 games for Houston. Then he took a bad ankle sprain. And then Kyle Lowry has had a great year and basically never regained his job. And I don't think he's regained totally his confidence, what he had in the past couple years.
Warwick knocks down the shot. Yeah, Brooks missed a chunk of time. He was out 24 games with a severely sprained left ankle and just has not been able to get it going after last year's season where he just exploded. Still, he's only 26 as his 4th year in the league.
I think it was a very good trade for Phoenix if they choose to re-sign him, because Steve Nash at some point is not going to be able to, as Howard makes a great counter move and dunk. Steve Nash is not going to continue to play at this level. They need a starting point guard that can play fast, run pick and rolls, and Aaron Brooks can do that.
Meanwhile, Howard continues to play at an incredible level. Brooks' jump shot is good. For a little guy and slight, he's got great range. And as you mentioned, Jeff, so quick. As Orlando's lead cut to 3.
Jameer Nelson is rarely taller than the guy he plays, but he is tonight.
They list Brooks as 6 feet. There's no way. Howard easy, and the interior defense from Phoenix really struggling.
Not just interior, but specifically Lopez doing a poor job of keeping his body connected to Dwight Howard. You don't want Howard to get to the rim, and he's making him pay the price when he gets there.
Brooks and a Warwick play catch. Phoenix here at home this year, 18-14. They've been very sporadic at home as Turkoglu comes up with it. Turkoglu, one of the players obtained from Phoenix in that December trade. They also got Jason Richardson and Earl Clark. Howard, hard foul. Call against Lopez, and Howard's going to go to the free throw line.
No, I expect to see Gortat in this game real soon, because when you talk about the defense that Lopez is playing against Dwight Howard is embarrassing, and Alvin Gentry basically throwing the flag saying, I've seen enough, and here's Gortat entering the ball game. This is bad defense. Your job is to keep him in front of you and force him to make a move. Time and time again, he's been able to get to the rim, either a dunk or go into the line.
And I'm not sure why he's playing him the way he's playing him. He's playing like a jump shooter who's forcing him to drive versus backing up and encouraging the jump shot. It's puzzling just from a knowledge of the type of player you're playing.
And Howard continues to work on his free throws, obviously by how many times he gets there. Knocks down the first one. But what he has done this year, second in blocks, second in rebounds, second in field goal percentage. He's been in the top 10 in scoring. I mean, you can put him right up there with Derrick Rose, LeBron James. He deserves to be a legitimate candidate for MVP.
Listen, they have 41 wins. If Howard wasn't here, this is horrible basketball right now from a defensive standpoint. But if he wasn't there, I think you could flip it. They would certainly be a lottery team. Dwight Howard, you just look at the numbers, 23 points a game, 14 rebounds, 2 block shots. If they didn't have them, they'd be one of the worst defensive teams in the league. Very good defense by Gortat there. So he plays both ends.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch Gortat and Howard, who went at it in practice over and over again as Aaron Brooks knocks it down. Gortat, one of the players that was acquired by Phoenix in that trade with Orlando. He was Dwight Howard's backup for several seasons, knows him well. There's even some good-natured ribbing last couple of days leading up to this matchup, the first one since the trade. So we'll have fun watching those two.
Dwight Howard on the offensive end, getting to his spot, avoids the double team, spins off, and bad defense, better offense. I got an appointment with the rim. Howard putting on a clinic early.
The first in Phoenix, the way teams have been playing physical basketball against Dwight Howard became a topic for Stan Van Gundy and the Magic. It's been all season. Stan Van Gundy had this to say after he picked up his 16th technical and suspended. They like the way the game is being called. This is the system. David Stern and his minions like it. I certainly can't have an opinion because David Stern, like a lot of other leaders we've seen in the world lately, don't really tolerate other people's opinion of free speech. David Stern obviously not happy with that, came back. I see somebody whose team isn't performing, whose star player suspended, seems to be fraying whatever the pressures Stan is feeling. It made me sad. I would render a guess we won't be hearing from him the rest of the season. When he stops and reads what he said and realizes what he did, he will say no more. Obviously something you don't want to see between a guy who's one of the premier coaches and obviously one of the great commissioners going back and forth. Mark, it's not something, you know, ask you guys what you feel about it. Jeff, you're obviously so close to it. You're his brother. Mark, you're only his distant cousin, so I'm going to ask you first your thoughts on the whole situation this week.
Well, I understand what Stan was attempting to do, protect his superstar player from the abuse that he's been taking from day one in this league. Did a good job at that, but I think, I know that Stan Van Gundy went overboard with his criticism and should have just left it at that. Looking at both comments, I think the best thing to do is for both guys to leave it alone and let's continue with this great season of basketball.
Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, I thought Stan's comments were snarky, and I thought I was surprised by what I thought were unbecoming comments by Commissioner Stern. But I think the comments obscure the big fact. The big fact to me is Dwight Howard being officiated correctly? There's been, up until a couple days ago, there's been 88 flagrant fouls called in the NBA this season, drawn by 67 different players. Dwight Howard is the most fouled player in the league and has had not one flagrant foul committed against him. Blake Griffin leads the league. He's had 8 called for him. Going back, the last flagrant foul called against Dwight Howard was a year ago, 81 games, almost 3,000 minutes. I would suspect he's been fouled 1,000 times in those times. Are we to say that this guy who's being fouled the most has never had a flagrant foul called? 1,000 fouls? And I would just say this, if I was the NBA, I would forget about the comments and I would look to, is there a point the Magic are making that's correct? And I would look at every foul if I was the officiating staff to see either we're doing it correctly and he isn't being ever hit excessively, or are we missing some things?
Howard gets it inside, quadruple team, and a foul called. Mark?
I think you make a great point, but he's not the first. You can go back to Shaquille O'Neal and even before him. Big guys are not going to get the benefit of those calls because of their strength. It works against them. It's not as obvious, those hits. And it is something that should be certainly taken a look at.
Well, I somewhat disagree, though, because Blake Griffin is as big and strong as anybody. And he's had 8 called for him in 60 games. And what you mentioned about Shaquille O'Neal, I absolutely agree. the restraint he showed over his career with the blatant blows that were directed at him above the shoulder, the swings, the hits to the head, I just don't see, like, just because it hasn't been called before doesn't mean to continue to condone the wrong things.
Right, I think the difference with Blake Griffin, you have a guy 6'8" at best, flying through the air, taking hits, so he's flying out of bounds, falling on the ground. So it looks obviously to be a flagrant foul where Dwight Howard is just taking those hits, and a lot of times it's the other guys falling off of his body.
How often have we seen as Gortat knocks down the shot? A couple of buckets early for Gortat. How often have we seen over the years a foul that, boy, it looks so bad because of the way the guy falls, and then you look at the replay, and it was a clean defensive play. Yes, a foul, but certainly not a flagrant foul.
But you will go back and see footage of Dwight Howard being fouled, and they certainly should have been called flagrants. There's no question about that.
His strength works against him in that department, and his strength certainly helps him there as Gortat tried to draw the charge, and Howard having a great start here this afternoon. And this is Brooks on the mark. Nelson pulls up for three. And Stan Van Gundy talks all the time. Mark, you hinted at the top. When Jameer Nelson plays aggressive and attacking, they're a different team.
In pick and roll situations, they're at their best, and this is their history. This is how they got to the finals, when Jameer Nelson was aggressive offensively, scoring and creating shot opportunities for his teammates. That's when they're a tough team to defend.
A defensive 3 seconds, so a one-shot technical as we send it back to Lisa.
Hey, Mike, well, I was talking to Magic GM Otis Smith about the Dwight Howard and technical situation. He said, I tried to tell Dwight that he's just going to have to play through this, that if I were on the opposing team, I would do the same thing. I would foul him and try to get him out of the game. And I said to him, aren't players taught that if you foul a guy to foul him hard? And he says, yes, but does that make it okay? The league really should look at how hard people foul Dwight Howard. I asked him about the Stan Van Gundy comments. He said the commissioner did have a conversation with team management. He said he didn't want to get into the details of that conversation, but team management did have a conversation with Stan Van Gundy. And he said Stan was just protecting his player. He's not sure about the method or if the method that Stan used was appropriate, but he said he was just trying to protect Dwight Howard. As far as whether we will hear from Stan Gundy in the future, as the commissioner suggested that we will not, Otis Smith said, I've been working with Stan Van Gundy for a number of years. We may not hear from him about officiating in the future, but he will always have something to say about something. Mike.
Well, Lisa, it's an important issue. You hope for good dialogue. It can be heated debate at times. You just hope it doesn't get personal.
Well, it's very Godfather-y and like, we'll never hear from him again. I thought he was being taken to the Meadowlands to be buried. I mean, my goodness. Well, the commissioner, don't bury my brother yet. Jeez.
One paper in Orlando called Stan Fredo Van Gundy.
You know what? And this is the other thing about the NBA. You don't really know if Stan was fined or if the team was fined, because many times they fine individuals and teams without publicizing it and threaten to fine them again if they leak the fine. So we have no idea, like, if he's not going to be, if he was punished or if the team was punished. You never know.
Bass, meanwhile, misses the shot, and Gilbert Arenas just checked in as it poked away by Petrus, another former Magic player.
And we talked about this beforehand. I would totally suggest, as we see in baseball, Joe Torre taking a position as Bass makes a big-time move in the league office, and he's using his experience as a player, as a manager, to the advantage to making the game better. If Phil Jackson, this is his last year with the Los Angeles Lakers, I would suggest putting him in the league office and letting him have a voice as to how to make this game better.
And I agree with that, because no one in the league office right now has competed on the floor in a long time. You know, they haven't competed as a general manager or as a coach in forever, as Gortat knocks in his third jump shot. So competing for marketing dollars is different than competing for on the floor and knowing what these players, coaches, and GMs go through.
Jameer Nelson knocks down the three. Although we'll say this
is a bad pickup game, Mike, right now.
The NBA, as well as any of the professional sports leagues, they adjust and figure things out and make changes when need to be when it's confronted. Whether it takes longer than you want or not, they usually do the right thing.
Well, I would not necessarily go that far, but I understand your sentiment. I would say this is that an ombudsman type that has an outside influence that can talk about, you know, things from an objective standpoint, as Howard makes an incredible block.
That's 4 already for Howard. 4 blocks in the first quarter, and a technical foul has been called against Petrus.
But to go back, like ESPN, like when they get like criticized, they have a guy who can do that on the outside and not fear repercussions. I think every league should explore that possibility.
First they're going to shoot the technical. So we can have the timeout first. Either way, it's been a little bit of a sloppy start, but a high-scoring one for Stan Van Gundy. His team up by 8 here in the first.
ESPN's NBA Sunday Showcase on ABC. Brought to you by the new 2011 Ford F-150. Built Ford tough. Warner Brothers Pictures Arthur in theaters April 8th. And KFC. Today is a KFC day. And today tastes so good.
Playing today, and Aaron Brooks hearing it from his new coach about what he wants.
I want you to be as aggressive offensively as you were in Houston. All right? Because we got to have you try to score. Don't worry about it. I mean, you can take as many shots as you need to take. You know, don't think that you have to try to play any differently than you played at Houston, okay? That's the way I want you to approach it today, all right? Okay.
Well, that's the ultimate green light, and Aaron Brooks has responded, coming off the pick and roll, hitting a long pull-up 2, and then another one, and then driving by Gilbert Arenas for the easy lay-in. He's already got 6 field goal attempts, made 4, 10 points. This guy can give you 30, 35 points in a night.
Just hasn't found the rhythm yet here in Phoenix. By the way, just that's some tie Alvin Gentry had on. As Jameer Nelson can't hit the technical free throw.
I think that's from the Jeff Van Gundy line. That's getting it done.
Very sharp. He was just, speaking of all the pregame hugs, just having a nice friendly chat with Hedo Turkoglu, his former player. Now, can coaches do that?
No, but here's the funny thing about all that. Turkoglu probably thought he got gypped out of minutes and probably was always complaining about Alvin Gentry, the coach. And now they come back and all they're going to do is hug. Come on. Just play ball.
Shot clock down to 4. Arenas from way downtown. And Howard the rebound. Howard already 9 points, 3 boards, and 4 block shots here in the opening period. Gartett, you said yesterday, I know Dwight Howard from playing him.
That's excellent defense.
Give him credit. He's played outstanding defense against Howard. You can live if Howard scores and knocks those shots down, but that's 2 or 3 times keeping them in front and not allowing them to get to the rim.
And again, like if I'm Dwight Howard, I've got to think about how I can get the ball closer to the basket instead of facing up from 18 feet.
Shot clock's 5 on this end. Petrus trying to make a move. He's going to have to jack one up. Does so. Off the mark. Nelson gets a running start. It's one man to beat. Sidesteps Brooks. Good hustle from Petrus getting down and perhaps affecting that shot. Well, after a very sloppy start, poor shooting, both teams starting to find a little bit of a rhythm.
They've got to find some defensive toughness, both teams.
Brooks crossover. Jared Dudley comes off the bench, knocks down the shot. And the Magic will go for the final shot of the period. Nelson doesn't get it to go. Looked like a good no call that time as Nelson tried to draw the foul on Brooks. How about Howard with the defensive start? 4 block shots in the opening period. Meanwhile, at the other end of the floor, Orlando shoots 56% from the field. First quarter complete. A 6-point Magic lead.
Welcome back to Phoenix. Stand up 6 after 1. What was working for you in that first quarter?
Well, we got shots, but we're playing no defense, none.
Well, I think Jeff said this is like a bad pickup game. What are you liking that to?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, there's no intensity. There's no defense being played.
All right, thanks for your time. Bye.
All right, Lisa. I'm hoping you would answer who? Who said that? Meanwhile, more substitutions. Josh Childress comes in, and that's Xavier Dowdell. a rookie who's been bouncing around Europe in the D-League. Pass inside to Childress. You know, they had high hopes for Childress, Mark, when during this offseason signing him to a free agent deal for $34 million. He just has not been able to really crack the rotation on a consistent basis.
Really has not produced, and it wasn't like they were the only team willing to spend money on Childress. A lot of teams was looking for, you know, some of the same things he did with the Atlanta Hawks during their, you know, great playoff run, and he just has not accomplished that level again.
But they had signed so many players at the small forward positions. They had Turkoglu, Grant Hill, Childress, Jared Dudley. I mean, I just didn't see when that was happening as Dowdell makes a good cut.
Offensive foul as Ryan Anderson draws the charge.
There was no playing time for those guys to all play together. Good reaction by Ryan Anderson, not usually his strength, which is team defense.
But Childress last couple of years over in Greece, right before he left with Atlanta, he was starting to become a good intangibles player. Then got a big offer and went over. Anderson kind of moved that pivot foot, slid a little bit, and that's the second turnover for Orlando, and that's been one of the real problems. Jeff Van Gundy said we turn it over in a variety of ways. Stan Van Gundy, that is. We're a complete turnover team, is what he said. They're 23rd in the league in turnovers.
And it's when you get guys trying to do things out of character. Ryan Anderson putting the ball on the floor trying to make a play. That's not what he does.
Dudley counted and a foul.
See, that's just bad defense. Not just Dudley beating Richardson, but you're guarding Childress on the wing. I think it was Brandon Bass. Did not even move to help. So Bass is out on his own man, which is Childress, who's not a range shooter. He doesn't move to help. That's just bad defensive basketball. And when you're looking at the Heat, I mean, the Magic, you have Bass and Anderson. Listen, Rashard Lewis wasn't shooting the ball well, but there has been a huge drop-off defensively with those two power forwards compared to Lewis.
Richardson, short, Childress the rebound. Dudley on the drive, gets it to go. All right, how about overall? I mean, it's a big trade for both teams. Is there a winner in the trade, or do both teams it's still a work in progress? We'll find out your answers when we come back as Stan Van Gundy wants a time. Their 8-point lead cut to 1 here on the second.
Thanks for watching ESPN on ABC, home of the NBA Finals.
Against a team they had the big trade with back in mid-December. And you see Jason Richardson, Turkoglu, and Earl Clark going to Orlando for Carter, Gortat, Petrus, and a first-round draft pick in the 2011 draft. And you look at the trade numbers since the trade. Phoenix is 21-17. They were under 500 before the trade, so you can say from a record standpoint they improved. Magic, meanwhile, 24-16 since the trade as Ryan Anderson knocked it down. All right, Mark, you think either one got the better of the deal?
It's hard to say right now, but what I will say is that the Orlando Magic was stale at the time, and they had to make a move to try to give themselves some life. And certainly they got a guy in Turkoglu that has history with him, that knows the system and can create some offense. Jason Richardson is a high-energy guy that you know what you're going to get. So I still think the jury's out for both teams, but I think this Orlando certainly had to do something.
Jeff, certainly the guy who benefited the most from the trade is Gortat.
Well, Gortat has the most long-lasting potential as Davian Dowdell banks a three that doesn't hit the rim.
Nice pass ahead. Duhon gets it to Richardson for the slam.
And Mark was right. I think Orlando had hit the absolute peak going to the finals in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years. But they're further away today from a championship than they have been in a while. If you look at these parts right now, there's no fit to it. There's no one who thinks defense first and foremost. They have a bunch of guys. If Bass makes a nice baseline drive and dunk, they're just not a good fit right now, and they're going to need to address that in the offseason. But I think the Phoenix trade, I think where they really lost was in the Washington trade with Arenas.
Arenas just not close to being healthy as Dudley gets knocked down. And he'll go to the line for a couple of free throws. Our NBA calendar tomorrow night on ESPN. Terrific doubleheader, San Antonio, Miami. Stuart just told you about that one. We'll be in LA for the Magic and the Lakers. NBA TV on Tuesday, Dallas at Portland. TNT Thursday, Chicago, Atlanta. Phoenix at the Lakers. And then ABC next, actually April 3rd. It's Phoenix at San Antonio. And then the Denver Nuggets playing in LA against the Lakers. So some very tough games coming up for the Phoenix Suns. By the way, the TNT games are Tuesday, not Thursday, Tuesday. With the NCAA tournament starting off, we change the schedule around a little bit.
You know, I'm glad you brought up TNT. I don't know if you guys were watching yesterday, Reggie Miller doing the Conference USA final with Dan Bonner and Kevin Harlan, and then Steve Kerr doing the games in the Big Ten. And you know what I have a problem with of our contemporaries? They didn't get the CBS blazer. Reggie Miller and Steve Kerr, they just looked like they weren't a part of it. Jim Nance, Clark Kellogg in their CBS Blazers. Steve Kerr, I want to start a blog. Get Steve and Reggie the Blazer, please.
No doubt being fitted for it.
They need it. Like, how could you feel if you're one of the Magic or Suns players and you didn't get to have the uniform?
Oh, nice block from Childress. Anderson a little shaken up.
If you didn't get to play, you had to play in a different uniform, wouldn't you feel like an outcast? I mean, either they're on your team or they're not on your team.
I tell you what, they're not team players. It's just a gig for Reggie and Steve. You and I would have had the Blazers and everything on.
No, I think it's different. I don't think they've included them yet. They want to make those guys prove their worth to get the Blazer.
I know Reggie and Steve. I think those guys are
and I have a question
level
that you might know. Tim Corrigan, executive producer, where are our ESPN Blazers?
What concerns me as we look at your #1 seeds is that you're serious about some of these things. They're your #1 seeds.
We agree. We have the same #1 seeds.
I didn't see that.
Very good. I don't think we'll totally agree on the Final Four select.
No, I think that's a reach. But great minds think alike.
And what's our excuse?
Petra steps back for 3. Howard with the rebound. Arenas finding Anderson. Anderson spins back out Richardson. That won't go. Howard the rebound. That won't go. Anderson's tip finally goes. Coming up on 5 minutes gone by here in the second. Yamamoto's game's had some ugly moments so far. Nice steal from Arenas, but a foul on the pass before. And it's going to go against Dwight Howard. All right. I hesitantly go to this. Your Final Fours as you put the kiss of death on these teams.
I have San Diego State. They've only lost to Jimmer. They beat them the other day, BYU. I like Texas, too. I like their talent.
Shocking that Mark has Louisville.
It's Suns team. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I totally just looked at the talent, looked at the coaching, and picked my Final Four.
Downtown misses. Howard the rebound.
You know what, though? They don't have a lot of talent. Rick Pitino every year does a great job, but I don't think he could ever do a better job than he's done this year.
3-second violation, offensive 3 seconds. They losing in the Big East final last night to UConn in what was a thrilling game.
Do you think Jim Calhoun brought 5 different suits? They won 5 games in 5 days. Or do you think he said, hey, listen, I'm going to do a Van Gundy. I'm going to recycle the same one over and over and over again until we lose.
Did you get any sleep last night?
I did. These are things I ponder.
Here's my question. I know you in 5 games would have probably had 1,
2.
maximum 2. How many shirts and ties would you have had?
Oh, 5. No, because I'm a believer.
You wouldn't have had 5 shirts.
I would have.
Howard, beautiful pass from Richardson. And you see not just the size, but the athleticism of Howard as the Magic have their largest lead. And a timeout called by Alvin Gentry. Thankfully, so you guys can refocus. 6:12 remaining here in the second. Howard's had a big half.
Energy running the floor, automatically giving the target, and then finishing at the rim. Dwight Howard. Outstanding first half of basketball, not just scoring, dominating the paint area.
11 new stars are ready to make their move. ABC's Dancing with the Stars live 2-hour premiere Monday, March 21st. Always looking for candidates for Dancing with the Stars.
Wow.
Look at the facial expressions. You got some moves. Have they asked you yet?
No, they didn't. I think they know my answer.
It would be yes. And, you know, that's why when you played for the Knicks, we loved you. And when you played for the Pacers, we absolutely detested
Right.
your very being.
Hill finds Childress, steps back. And I don't think it got the rim. 46-36, a 10-point Orlando lead. Well, one thing Orlando's doing today that they didn't do Friday is defend the three. Phoenix is 0 for 5 as Arenas knocks down the three. Because Friday night they played in Golden State, a game they're up by 21 in the second quarter, and they saw Golden State hit 21 threes and come back and win it in overtime.
You know, and talking to Stan Van Gundy before the game, he says, hey, we want to make them a jump shooting team, but a 2-point jump shooting team. We don't want to surrender open 3-point shots because that'll hurt.
Arenas, that's off the foot of Hill and goes out of bounds. Let's listen to a Stan Van Gundy huddle.
We're very happy with our offense. There's no intensity in this game at either end. Listen, we got off to a good start. We're playing again like we think it's going to be easy. It is not.
That was the case Friday. Warriors came back and won in overtime. By the way, Orlando hit 15 threes themselves, an NBA record for combined threes in a game. 36. Duhan shot in and out. Gortat the rebound.
That's why when I played for good teams down the stretch of the season, as Brooks again knocks down a shot, I really preferred playing against better teams rather than playing against the teams that were not on our level or had nothing to play for, because that's how you develop bad habits.
Arenas spotting up. That's good. And Arenas finding the stroke. That's his second three-pointer. And this is the largest lead. Well, Brooks is not hesitant tonight. Knocks down another shot. You heard Alvin Gentry say just a short time ago, don't be reluctant, be the player you were in Houston. He's got that aggressiveness tonight.
Well, especially the way that the Magic are playing pick and rolls. Dwight Howard is playing center field, allowing Brooks to get to his spots. And that's where he can make you pay the price.
3 seconds on Dwight Howard as Jameer Nelson comes in, and we listen to Alvin Gentry's huddle.
Guys, we're doing fine. We got plenty of points. We got to find a way to slow them down, though. Everything is right at the basket, okay? Hey, challenge threes we can live with, you know. They're a good 3-point shooting team. We got to make sure that they're challenged, okay?
Well, that's where Phoenix has struggled this year. Brooks gets inside. Shot won't go, but a foul. Last year, they were actually a better defensive team than you remember. They were 11th in the NBA in opponents' field goal percentage. They got to the conference final. But this year, it has not been the same. They're 25th in that department this year.
Well, like Orlando, they possess, other than Grant Hill, not one guy, either team right now, Dwight Howard on one end, Grant Hill on the other, that thinks defense. You know, Gortat too, give him credit. But you're not just going to play defense just by schemes. You've got to have guys who have the intent of being defenders. And neither team really has guys who are, you know, really engaged in that side of the ball. They like to score, they like to play offense, but they're not necessarily as willing to do the hard things.
Nelson, nice move in the paint.
I mean, I'm going to say this, Mike. This is a joke when it comes to defense, and I'm not just saying on one end. I mean, you got to be more determined. You got to find a way to make a multiple effort.
Carter able to hit the three. I mean, the word we keep everybody's using, from the coaches to you guys, there's just no intensity or urgency defensively.
And Jameer Nelson is hobbled. I think he took a knee on knee.
Yeah, he's grimacing over there now. Anderson, quick catch and shoot. That won't go. Rebound knocked loose. And touched by both players. They ruled it a jump ball. Nelson limps off a bit. Brooks pats him on the back. There you see Phoenix, the defensive numbers. It just has not been as good as last year. They really did a good job, especially second half of the season. They became a better defensive team and helped them in the playoffs, and a big part of why they were able to get to the conference finals.
And I think it has to do with schemes, but it also got to do with, even though you're not a defender, you have to be willing to compete on the defensive end. And if you get those type of guys, then you can be in a good situation. But if you have guys that's just all about the other end of the floor, then that's a recipe for disaster.
Here's Brooks. Brooks easily having his best game as a member of the Suns, and they needed it. No Steve Nash, and Brooks has 17 points in 15 minutes.
But Mike, I've watched Stan Van Gundy tell Dwight Howard to step up and get closer to Brooks. If you allow him to come off that pick and roll and get space, he's going to score the basketball. You're getting him into his comfort zone, and he has extreme confidence. Dwight Howard too far back. That's an easy shot for Aaron Brooks, punishing the Orlando Magic defense.
ESPN, your NBA destination. Monday night, a pair of games. First at 8 Eastern. It's the Heat hosting the Spurs. San Antonio whacked them in Texas recently. And then the Magic will continue their 5-game road trip. They'll be in LA against the Lakers. Doubleheader tomorrow night on ESPN. Here in Arizona, Orlando right now in the 4th spot in the East. You see Chicago right now. Boy, Chicago, just what a great season. Even Stan Van Gundy said right now they're the most consistent team in the NBA. They've got a shot at the best record in the East.
And that's so critical for them because, one, you're going to be playing a horrible team in the first round. Secondly, you're only going to have to play either Miami or Boston, not both.
Stan Van Gundy made a good point. In the Eastern Conference, they're really the only team that has not gone through a drought. And that's with injuries to key players. They've been consistent, outstanding job by Derrick Rose and his leadership, and also Tom Thibodeau and his coaching ability.
Gortat. Poked away by Howard. Shot clock at 4. Brooks gets it to Gortat, puts up the shot, puts it in. 10 points for Gortat off the bench.
And 4 of those have been mid-range jump shots. Give him credit. He's really worked at his game, and he's playing at both ends.
He's had a terrific stretch. Last 20 games, averaging about 14.5 points, 10.5 rebounds. He leads all NBA bench players in double-doubles. Howard steps out, banks it in.
But you don't panic. If you're Gortat, that's good defense. That's on the coaching staff. Your job is to make him a jump shooter.
Vince Carter. Wow.
How many air balls have there been today?
At least a half a dozen. Count it, and a foul. Carter get in the way. Howard able to bank it in. And Howard's terrific first half continues as the Magic go back up by 10.
Well, Jason Richardson doing what he doesn't usually do, which is run pick and roll. He's not a great handler or passer. He finds him. Carter was actually there, but he turned his body away to try to avoid the impact, and that's what brought the blocking foul.
You see those numbers for Howard. You can throw in 4 blocks as well. And a nice free throw there from Howard. He's 4 for 5 from the line. Jameer Nelson still trying to work it out.
I don't think people give Dwight Howard enough credit. We're looking at an all-time great center in the history of this game. When you look at his numbers and what he's done from day one, it's been incredible.
Carter got bailed out that time. Drew the foul on Turkoglu. Coming up at halftime, the T-Mobile halftime report. Stuart Scott, Michael Wilbon, John Barry. The Thunder roll. I would assume that's about Oklahoma City. And then the Wild Heat week. They finally get that victory. A huge sigh of relief in LA, although I thought again Eric Spoelstra handled it very well after today. We're not out of anything yet. We just got to win. We have so much work to do.
And then they came back yesterday and beat up on a good Memphis team. And I think the Heat have to just remember, they don't need to participate in the other people outside their team trying to take their temperature every day. And secondly, they have to. They're always going on the floor with as much or more talent than anybody else. And the Lakers have gone through struggles, so they didn't panic. So why should Miami Heat?
And like what Pat Riley did, came out and said, he's my coach, because there's so much crazy speculation going on. As Brooks gets inside. Boy, Aaron Brooks, what a first half he's had. 19 points and 7 assists.
No, but you're right to get back to that. Pat Riley did the right thing as a blocking call on Grant Hill against Dwight Howard. And Alvin Gentry upset with it. But I like what Pat Riley did. If this is your coach and this is the guy that you believe in, and he's certainly a bright young mind and a tremendous young coach, then ride this thing out with him and give him the vote of confidence.
Hill leads the NBA in drawing offensive fouls. He's got 50. You know what? Did he get there in time to give Howard enough? You're supposed to be able to turn and change direction when you get the ball. That's close.
That's a charge.
Now, those are the tough calls to make, but it certainly looked like Grant Hill was in position and it was an offensive foul.
How about that from Hill? Here's the guy. He's the 3rd oldest player in the NBA. He's 38 years old, and he leads the entire league in drawing offensive fouls.
Well, he's got an innate defensive intelligence about him. Plus, he's long, he's quick, he's been well coached throughout his time playing basketball. Now, Phoenix and defense don't usually get used in the same sentence, except that bad is in there. But you would consider him as somebody you might vote for all defense.
There's no question he has been terrific. He always guards the opponent's best player. And again, 38. In such great shape. Ward, I don't know if he lost it or Anderson blocked it. As Duhon comes the other way.
A smart job by pulling it out, realizing there's enough time to take the last shot. Don't want to force anything up.
They have functioned well with Duhon on the floor. He's not really an offensive threat, but he's done enough to keep him steady and playing good basketball.
Anderson, blocked by Carter. Anderson gets it back. Won't go. And that will end the first half. So Dwight Howard with a terrific first half. 18 points, 8 rebounds. Meanwhile, Aaron Brooks was sensational in that first half. 19 points and 7 assists, starting in place of the injured Steve Nash. Meanwhile, Howard also 6 of 7 from the free throw line, and he's with Lisa.
Thanks, Mike. Dwight, 18 points in that first half. What was the key to you being able to do whatever you wanted to do in that half?
Just be aggressive and take my time and just go to work.
I don't see you bending over very often. What are you feeling right now?
I'm working hard, you know. I'm a little winded, but I'll be all right.
All right, thanks for your time, Mike.
Should be winded with the numbers he put up there in the first half, and helping the Orlando Magic to a 9-point lead. After the break, Stuart, Michael, and John have the T-Mobile halftime report. Oklahoma City with a victory earlier today, and another week in the life of the Miami Heat, all coming up on the T-Mobile halftime report. Magic out on the West Coast trying to get a road win. Dwight Howard leading the way. They're shooting 53% from the field and a 9-point advantage after 2. Bright sun, blue skies in Phoenix, Arizona, as we welcome you back to the U.S. Airways Center, home of the Suns, who currently trail by 9. Dwight Howard and the Magic, a 61-52 lead as we get set to start quarter number 3. Hello again, everyone, with Mark and Jeff. Mike Breen on hand. We'll check in with Lisa in just a moment. Ugly basketball, especially defensively in that first half, but some terrific individual performances. Let's start with Dwight Howard, Mark, what he did in that first half.
Oh, really dominated that first half, not only on the offensive end, but changing shots, blocking shots, and then rebounding the basketball. Teams are going to play you very physical, clearly a foul. Your job is to keep your head, stay control, and not get caught up in it. Great job of officiating by Ronnie Garrison, not calling the flagrant there. And how about this? Foul certainly with the hands again, play through it. Continue to outwork everybody on the floor. Rebound, look at Dwight Howard run coast to coast, gets the lob pass, finishes. Outstanding first half, 18 big points, 9 rebounds, and block shots.
Meanwhile, Phoenix again playing without Steve Nash, only down by 9. Part of the reason has been to play Aaron Brooks with his start and Marcin Gortat with his continuing fine play.
Well, they shot a combined 13 for 16. Brooks had 7 assists, and they played it off the pick and roll. Aaron Brooks, this should not surprise anybody. He is a very good scoring point guard. Here coming up, making a nice pass to Gortat. He's added that mid-range jumper, and then the crossover and the finish, oversized for Aaron Brooks. Both guys have played outstanding basketball here in the first half.
So we're set to start the third. And Brooks, it's only his 8th game since the trade from Houston, as we send it over to Lisa Salters.
Hey, Mike. Well, as Alvin Gentry was telling you guys in that first half, we're scoring enough points. We've just got to figure out a way to slow them down. He told me they're just scoring way too many points in the paint. We're doing a good job with the perimeter guys like Jay Rich limiting their threes because they said Dwight Howard is just killing us. From now on the rest of the way, I think we're going to have to double team them. Mike?
You know, you look at that first half, and a lot of it, it's not like they're not playing hard, or they're certainly not going through the motions, but there seems to be just like a lack of real intensity and focus.
Coach talked about it, almost like a summer league or rec league type of intensity. And I would say you're starting Gortat in this third quarter if you're the Phoenix Suns. You don't have to double team Dwight Howard. I thought he did a very good job of playing him one-on-one and making him a shooter away from the rim area.
Nelson, meanwhile, who hobbled off earlier, he's got a sore knee, knocks down the shot. He's 5 of 7 from the field.
And I totally agree with Alvin Gentry starting Gortat here as Duncan, what am I talking about? I'm as bad as the guys on the floor. As Vince Carter goes in and dunks, but because, listen, Lopez got Howard off to start the game. You can't allow him to get going here to start the second half.
I can see as Howard's foul, mistake Carter for certain players, but Duncan, where's your focus, man?
No, my focus is exactly, you know what it starts with, Mike? Trying hard. Both teams try. Listen, we can talk all about,
whoa, Alvin Gentry furious. He just got hit with a technical foul. Alvin Gentry is hot. So Nelson will shoot the technical free throw.
I like the passion. Good. Someone get a little angry. If it was the teams, they would have hugged the official. Come on.
I don't know exactly what he's so upset about.
He was upset on who the foul was called on.
Right, the foul was clearly on Vince Carter, but they gave the foul to Gortat.
Either way, it's the first foul on either. Plus, it's a shooting foul. Now, Alvin Gentry's team, they've played better. They're 13-6 in their last 19 games. Now, they're coming off a bad loss at home against Denver. And without Steve Nash, he knows the importance of this game.
That foul is all Vince Carter.
But if you just notice, now it wasn't a flagrant foul, but you see the shot to the head that Howard just took? That's what has an accumulative effect of making someone frustrated.
But don't you think every big guy in the league gets that?
What does that matter? No, first of all, no. The bad free throw shooters do. Gortat doesn't take hits to the head like that. It's the bad shooters. But I'm just saying, even if that was true, that doesn't make it right.
Warwick misfires. Richardson the rebound.
You know, with your last couple of statements, you may be the comeback announcer of the year.
After Duncan, I would hope. I mean, that's a horrible.
Richardson nails the jumper. And a quick timeout. Alvin Gentry still upset. A stare at Curtis Blair. And now some words for his team. They've fallen behind by 13.
ESPN's NBA Sunday Showcase on ABC. Brought to you by the outrageous new comedy Your Highness, starring Danny McBride, James Franco, and Natalie Portman. April 8th. M&M's Can't Resist Them. And the new 2011 Ford F-150. Built Ford Tough.
People all over the world, that's why we play basketball, is to bring joy to people's lives. And we also need to do that off the court. Just to see the impact that we as NBA players have is bigger than basketball. Having the ability to touch people's lives, wherever it may be, that's why I smile so much.
And Howard's smiling right now, although he's taking some shots here today, having a terrific game. His team up by 14. This was in the first half, one of the first plays. Took a hard tumble.
And then he just took a forearm to the head, Vince Carter, in the technical foul that Alvin Gentry took. It, you know, it's just the accumulative effect. Like, why should he have to take those hits and no one else, like a Blake Griffin, doesn't have to take those hits?
Gortat deflects it out, and here's the one just moments ago.
I mean, that's just a forearm shiver to his face. And just because he doesn't flop down and whine and grab himself like a lot of people would, shouldn't punish you.
And he could really pay the price if he had an old school mentality where a big guy, after taking those type of hits, would say, okay, let your guy come to the hoop. Let him come to the cup, and he's going to pay the price for the hit that I just received.
Richardson misses. Grant Hill releases. By the way, if you notice, the score changed to 68. A Jameer Nelson shot that they counted as 2 was looked at and was a 3-pointer. So after that Hill basket, it's a 12-point game. Nelson, nice move inside. Turkoglu falling away.
I think Turkoglu takes too many hard shots.
Warwick, and a foul on Nelson.
Turkoglu had a wide open 3 that he turned into a fadeaway, one-legged, off-balance shot. Just shoot the open shot. I don't understand why guys take good shots and turn them into hard shots.
Well, that's what Stan Van Gundy was talking before the game. Knowing Turkoglu can be such a good player, but he said, number one, his energy level, night in and night out, is not always the same. Number 2, he just needs to make the simple play.
I mean, right there, he's wide open for a 3. No one's making that shot consistently, except Michael Jordan and maybe Kobe Bryant. And guess what, Turk? That's not you. Take the open. I mean, you work so hard to get a good look. Just shoot the first open good shot you have.
Still early here in the third. 10-point game. Orlando's led by as many as 14. They've led the entire way. Grant Hill strips Howard of the ball.
And that pass has to come out to Richardson as Grant Hill went to double.
Howard comes right back with the steal. He leads all NBA centers in steals as Turkoglu is fouled by Carter. 2 fouls on Carter, and Turkoglu to the line.
Good Dwight Howard, you got to make the adjustment now, understanding that they're double teaming you when you dribble the basketball. Look to find your shooters on the perimeter.
Because that's another form of greatness, being able to make guys who are pretty good to being very good if you can draw that second defender.
Our NBA calendar, ESPN, some special games Monday night. San Antonio playing at Miami. We'll be in Los Angeles for the Lakers and the Magic. Then NBA TV Tuesday, Dallas at Portland. TNT's got a doubleheader on Tuesday, Chicago at Atlanta. Phoenix at the Lakers. And then Phoenix continues a tough week in San Antonio. Actually, that's April 3rd. And then Denver at the Lakers as we get some weekends, Sundays off with the NCAA tournament. A little over a month remaining before the regular season comes to an end, and still so much to be determined. This is a big game for both teams in terms of positioning. Carter, nice move off the Brooks penetration. 9 assists for Aaron Brooks, doing a little Steve Nash impression here this afternoon.
Well, the difference is he's coming off that screen and roll very aggressive.
Howard, his 11th rebound, shot blocked. Turkoglu will inbound.
Well, it's an important time for the Orlando Magic. They're allowing the Phoenix Suns to hang around in this ball game, and they have a history of this. They should realize that's when it can come back to bite you, when you give games away instead of putting teams away.
And Phoenix has done that a number of times at home this year. 6 times they've trailed at home going into the fourth quarter and have come back and won.
And you make such a good point, but isn't that why teams are who they are? Because they don't learn? And certainly there's nothing here that we've seen so far that would suggest that the Magic have said, hey, listen, enough. And I think a little bit of it is, I think their talent level has dropped. They're a little bit older, and they're not quite as good. But I don't think their belief is the same, that they can win it. I think they're giving lip service to this idea that they're a championship team.
Now, we asked your brother that very question before. Can this team still win a championship this year? And Mark touched on this a little bit earlier as the ball knocked away. He felt that the key was it all depends on, obviously, who's healthy and who's playing well when the playoff time comes. Now, he has to be positive. It's his team. But you get the feeling he thinks that as Bass knocks it down. Mark, I think you're a little more positive about the Magic than Jeff is.
I am, and the reason why is because they are a team that they have a superstar in the paint area that can dominate both sides of the basketball if Gortat makes a tough one. They also proven a team when they're making shots, they're tough to defend. They can go on a roll. It's going to take a roll, but they can go on a roll and beat anybody in the Eastern Conference.
And they've beaten every single one of the elite teams at least once. Howard misses that one.
I'm going to institute drug testing for broadcasters after that. I just heard that. Listen, are you watching what I've been watching?
Well, they can't go off this game.
No, just watching the whole year. Listen, they're good. They're one of the top 10 teams in the NBA, but they're not a championship caliber team.
Howard fouled again, and we'll go back to the line again.
So
Howard has some words for Gortat there.
Please tell me how many teams can win a championship.
I will after I show all my knowledge here on this highlight. Good hit by Gortat. Offensive foul by Howard, followed by a hard foul by Gortat.
You brought up offensive foul by Howard. He does a good job battling back, too. Not near where he gets, but he also...
Yeah, you can't extend that arm. He took the foul by Gortat. He gave as good as he got, and then Gortat finished him up. I'll tell you how many championship teams. L.A., Boston, and you may not agree with this, but I think Miami.
Oh, I agree with that.
Okay. And then I'm going to say San Antonio has to be in there. Because if you reach the Final Four, which I expect both teams, all those four teams to do, if you reach the Final Four, you've got a legitimate chance to play for it all.
What about Chicago?
I just don't see the level of talent necessary to win 4 straight series. Do I think they're going to win the first round? Absolutely. Do I think they'll give somebody a tough second round? And that's why I think it's so important that they get that #1 seed, because then they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. And if they can get to the Eastern Conference Finals, as Nelson launches an ill-advised 3, then I think they certainly can play for it.
Mark, you think there are more teams?
I agree with him, but I also add Chicago and Orlando in there. If you play this well throughout the course of a season, these are two teams that can go on a roll, as Stan Van Gundy talked about. Those teams that go on a roll when it matters most, they can win and enjoy a ride all the way through to the final.
All right, the only thing I'm going to say is let's hook that guy up to the lie detector machine. That's the type of shot I want Turkoglu to take. Balanced, 2 foot, up and down in the same spot. But let me hook Stan Van Gundy up to a lie detector when he's making that statement. That thing will go beep, 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 beep.
Turkoglu able to hit, and he's got 11 points and a lead back to 14, which equals the largest of the game.
Hey, this is the type of shot he can make. He is a proven knockdown three-point shooter when he has his balance.
The NBA, of course, their family's thoughts are with the people of Japan and the other survivors of the earthquake and tsunami. And we encourage the fans to help by joining the NBA and making a gift to the American Red Cross. These gifts will support disaster relief efforts to help those affected by the earthquake in Japan and tsunami relief throughout the Pacific region. Now, donations can be made in any amount to redcross.org. The devastation is just overwhelming when you look at the pictures, and the NBA part of the group right away trying to help in their response. As we resume play here in the third, Aaron Brooks having a very strong game. Starting in place of Steve Nash, the basket will not count. A kick ball or a foul?
Foul.
Second foul on Bass. Now let's take a look at Orlando's record against the elite. Split with Miami. They beat Boston, Chicago, split with San Antonio, Dallas, beat the Lakers. It's not bad.
Right. I'm saying they're a top 10 team in the NBA. I'm saying they're a good team. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying they don't have the requisite ingredients to be a championship level team. That's not a knock on them.
Shot by Brooks, a wild one, won't go.
Certainly want to go back also and give credit. The Dallas Mavericks are also a team that's in the mix. Well coached.
Absolutely.
They just, it's about being healthy at the right time for them.
Right. So many of the teams, everybody has either a flaw or a health issue going in, and that's, again, the key. Whoever's healthy.
I mean, this is how much health, we never talk about it because it's so, Kobe Bryant does what he did last night in Dallas, right? He sprains his ankle. Let's just say it kept him out. Well, it changes any series. As the Suns just made a very nice defensive play.
Richardson just grabbing Warwick, and they say he went up for the shot. So
that's the correct call. Correct call, and a great job of hustling and sacrificing his body by Aaron Brooks. Does not allow Nelson to split the pick and roll, and then gets on the floor, comes up with the loose basket.
And I thought Jason Richardson should have just tried to play Hakeem Warwick. You don't need to take the foul out there. Move your feet, make him take a tough shot. Don't gift him 2 free throws.
Warwick, also another free agent signee by Phoenix, getting a chance to play with Channing Frye out. He had a 32-point game last week. After 4 years with the Grizzlies last year, he was sent over to Chicago, and now here in Phoenix. Very talented player. He remembers March Madness well.
But it just shows you, Mike, Hakeem Warwick, he's a good player. You lose Amari Stoudemire, you're not going to be as good. I mean, that's just how it is. You better have guys that you can go to and that can dominate and that has an ability to consistently produce. Warwick goes from 32 to 6 to 10. I mean, you've got to be able to do it every night or close to every night.
Shot clock at 5. Nelson fakes. Turkoglu. Nice ball fake. One dribble. Can't get it to fall. And Gortat with his 4th rebound. Howard's on Warwick. Gortat wants it. Bass is guarding him. Brooks back to Gortat. Long range shot. Long rebound.
Warwick should drive the ball against Howard.
Especially because they have that matchup, because Bass is the guy defending Gortat. They're able to defend the pick and roll much better. If you're Warwick, take advantage of your quickness.
Carter comes off the screen, spins in the lane. Triple team, blocked by Howard. That's his 5th of the game. Turkoglu, nice finger roll for Turkoglu. And it's up to 14. You know, I mean, Brooks has played a very good game, but you see the difference without Steve Nash. Not only, obviously, you know, one of the premier point guards ever, as Warwick trying to draw a foul, and he does. But you also, the crowd isn't as energized. He's got this charismatic way of playing that gets the crowd involved, his teammates involved. The place has been pretty quiet tonight. Nash not playing, and he's with Lisa right now.
Thank you, Mike. Steve, how difficult is it for you to be here, not out there on the court with your team, especially with you guys being so close to that 8th spot?
It's tough. You know, we fought a long, hard battle to kind of get back to where we're in striking distance of the playoffs. So to kind of have a flare-up this time of year is really hard. But, you know, that's what it's like for everybody in this league. You got to be ready to find a way through injuries and make up for it. And we still got, you know, 18 games left, I think, after tonight. So we can still do it.
Inflammation of the pelvic joint is how you described it to me. What have you been doing back here rehab-wise while the guys are out there playing?
Well, I've been working on, I guess, retraining myself to move properly. I had some inhibition because of the inflammation of that joint, and which only prolongs or, you know, amplifies that inflammation. So, you know, I'm just trying to get myself moving properly again so that I can take stress off that joint and get back out there as soon as I can.
What's it feel like to you?
I think it's kind of like, you know, if I had to describe it, a combination of if someone's ever had a groin strain and an abdominal strain at the same time. You know, you feel weakness, and that's kind of where, those are kind of the victims, and that joint is more of the culprit.
And when do you think he'll be back?
Hopefully very soon. I don't know about tomorrow maybe, but Wednesday hopefully for sure. But, you never know. I wouldn't want to pick a date, but hopefully very soon.
All right, Steve, hurry back soon. Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot.
Mike?
Thanks, Lisa.
This is the first for me, missing a game for pelvic instability. That's one. And two, his Santa Clara education is much better than my Nazareth education, because he explained it, and I have no idea what's wrong with him or what he's been doing in the back.
He sounded like the doctor. That wasn't Steve Nash. That was the doctor.
He retrained his, what's he retraining?
The way he moves.
Something about inhibition and pelvic.
No.
Hey, this guy went to work. I mean, I was dazzled.
By the way, did you see the numbers when he doesn't play? Just that up there. 9 and 19 in the 28 games that he doesn't play. Yet the winning percentage is almost 68% when he does.
Mike, but those numbers were not as impressive as his assessment of the injury.
Agreed.
That was the best medical interview. Listen, if I'm Dr. Who is that? Oz? Is he the guy? The
IMTV, yeah.
Yeah, I'd hire him right now to talk about athletic injuries.
I mean, your Nazareth education, you probably would have been like, I'm okay. I'm looking forward to maybe tomorrow being back.
Or I'm hurt. I wouldn't have been able to break it.
See, I think the key, as Brooks came up, the key is Lisa's questioning, able to draw that out of him. Right, Lisa?
That is it, Mike. And actually, he explained it in detail to me when he first got to the arena. What he was basically saying is because he's been playing with this for a couple weeks, he's been playing through the pain, that he's been compensating. You know how you do. You compensate with an injury, so your body starts doing things so that it doesn't hurt, but it isn't helping your body. So that's what he means by retraining his body. He wants to get back to moving in the right way instead of just compensating, because when he compensated, it just aggravated that injury. Did that help?
No, not even a little bit, Lisa. This is Jeff, because what I was saying is if he explained it to you at length when you got to the arena, then what was his explanation just now? Not at length? I mean, that was like a 3-minute explanation of his pelvic instability.
By the way,
that was an explanation. Jeff, it just went over your head, Jeff. Was there anybody out there who understood? Mike, did you understand?
I got an idea. But what I want to know, did you feel it necessary to say to Lisa, this is Jeff? I think she knows who you are by now.
Well, I always like to identify myself.
Yes.
And I think this is difficult to talk about because we're talking about the pelvic region. I mean, so, your pelvic joint, what exactly is, how painful is that? The way he described it is it's very painful. And he says even to walk, it's very tender. So, I really didn't want to grill him about it because the whole thing was making me a little uncomfortable anyway.
Well,
look at those numbers. That makes other teams uncomfortable. This guy is 37 and getting it. I mean, when I say he's one of the great offensive point guards to have ever played.
Agreed. And he's a guy that plays through, when he's banged up a little bit. So for him not to play, he tried it. As we said earlier, Alvin Gentry felt he should have shut him down a couple of games ago, but Nash wanted to play. Lead is ballooned to 18. Michael Petras can't hit. Duha on the rebound. And there's not a lot of energy in the building right now. The fans just kind of hoping something happens. And look at Orlando. The game after they gave up 21 threes to Golden State, Phoenix is 1 for 10 from downtown. Howard, nice move. What a game he's had.
And I think their pick and roll defense, though, has gotten so much better as Howard's gotten up on the pick and roll more. I think he's done a terrific job from the first quarter on, just playing that pick and roll a lot better.
And when you get better is when you realize there's help behind you. So do your job and trust the other guys to do their job.
And that's, you guys talked about MVP stuff earlier. That's why Howard doesn't get his fair share, because his #1 strength as he banks in the shot is his defense. And it's not the sexy stat, it's not the highlight play, but it's just the plays that make you win games.
And it's so important with this team because, as Coach was talking about, look at the other guys on the floor. No real defensive presence. Dwight Howard makes everybody better on the defensive end, and the rebounding is underrated.
That rebound there, number 14, to go along with 26 points and 5 block shots.
Well, they've done so much better job on Aaron Brooks corralling him in those pick and roll situations.
Brooks hasn't scored yet here in this third quarter.
And that's where Dwight Howard has to get better. His turnover rate is way too high, especially if you're going to be a go-to guy.
That's his fourth turnover here this afternoon. Warwick against Ryan Anderson. Tried a second time, and Howard defending once again.
And that could hurt this Magic team late in the playoffs. High turnovers from the point guard position in Nelson and Arenas, and at the center position in Howard.
Shot clock and game clock nearly identical, as this third quarter has been all Orlando. Here when Arenas kicks it out. Duhon up top to Turkoglu, puts it up. And that will end the third period. A strong one for the Magic and Dwight Howard. They outscore the Suns 26-13. Howard with 26 points, 14 rebounds, 5 block shots, as Orlando has taken control here in the third. And this presentation of the NBA Sunday Showcase on ABC will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations. One of the most famous and infamous teams in college basketball history, Michigan's Fab Five, considered by some to be the greatest class ever recruited. Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, Jimmy King, Ray Jackson not only electrified the game, but they brought a new style to the masses. Now, in their own words, they relived those days. Fab Five presented by Super Street Fighter 4, 3D action on ESPN tonight at 9 Eastern.
How can they be the greatest class ever recruited when Kentucky just had 5 first-rounders last year?
That's just what the promo read. Well, what do you want from me?
I want some objectivity when you're reading that. Just don't read it. Are you like a trained rat where you're just going to do exactly what's told to you?
Well, let's look at what the... let's look at what a trained rat.
Mark, can I get an amen?
Amen.
All right.
This guy.
Look at Webber. Look at the
Weber,
careers.
Howard,
Webber, Howard,
Rose.
and Rose had
Right.
the NBA. King and Jackson were terrific college players.
All right. Well,
So let's see what
Wall.
these Kentucky kids do in the NBA.
And can you be the all-time greatest if you haven't won a championship?
I think what we're talking about is that impact on society. You know, black socks, black shoes.
Oh,
you know,
okay. Well, they were
those
great
guys
players, too, but I didn't know we were talking all
across the board.
So the short length, the whole bit. Hip-hop.
Well, they were a team that you either loved or hated. In fact, Juwan Howard.
How could you hate him? What was wrong?
Juwan Howard was saying earlier that they went to some arenas. The stuff that they heard was unbelievable how they were hated on the road. And he said he talked to the Miami Heat this year about dealing with that. His experiences on the Michigan Fab Five team, and talked to a lot of the Heat players on how to deal with the hatred they would find on the road.
I mean, you can't hate Juwan Howard. He is one of the classiest guys I have ever coached in my entire life.
I'll give you an amen on that.
Professional, hardworking, came early, stayed late, tried to perfect his craft, and wasn't overly athletic. Look at the career this guy's carved out.
Off the deflection, Richardson down the other way. And this building has gone quiet as the Magic have just taken control, dominating here in this second half. Suns didn't have a field goal the last almost 8 minutes of the third quarter. Still looking for one now, and finally get one as Petrus knocks down a 2. That's his first field goal. He was 0 for 6. Arenas trying to create. Now that could be, again, he's not going to be what he was, but if he can give them some kind of consistent spark off the bench with a little offense.
He can be key, especially because he can heat up and carry this team offensively. I think there's going to be days where he's going to feel great physically, and then there's going to be days where he's hobbling.
Timeout, Orlando. Their lead is 25 here early in the fourth.
ESPN's NBA Sunday Showcase on ABC. Brought to you by Warner Brothers Pictures' Sucker Punch, from the director of Watchmen and 300, in theaters March 25th. And Hanes, look great, feel great in a Hanes undershirt with the lay flat collar.
Stewart, beautiful day in Phoenix, but an ugly game for the Suns, as right now they came in as the game out of that final playoff spot. But they are hurting in the second half as Orlando right now up by 25. As you see the Western Conference as it stands. Dudley. This is a nice bounce back performance from Orlando. First half, they relied on their offense. They did not play good defense, but boy, the second half, their defense has been terrific.
Well, just right there, I give Gilbert Arenas a lot of credit. I thought that was very good defense against the Jared Dudley jump shot.
And for Orlando, it doesn't get any easier tomorrow night. They're in LA against Kobe Bryant and the Lakers. Bryant making some headlines this week after they lost in Miami. He came back out at the Heat's arena. And for a while, about 90 minutes, they say, practices shooting. I've seen guys do that on their home court, but not on the road.
You know, a heck of a statement for me. I haven't seen guys do it anywhere, quite honestly. And I've played 17 years. This is a guy that really has separated himself from everybody else on the planet. This is a superstar spending time after the game, after a bad effort to close out a ball game, getting shots up, working on his craft.
And my favorite Bryant story, similar to that, after they lost in 2008 to Boston, he had the Olympics coming up. He had a vacation going in Disney a week after the finals. And for a whole week, he came in at 5 or 5:30 in the morning to Orlando. My brother was telling me that he was there watching these workouts. 5:30 in the morning a week after the season to be ready for the Olympics. So he'd work out from like 5:30 to 7 or 7:30 and then go and ride Dumbo. Yeah, ride Dumbo going up and down in the Magic. Listen, have we become so cynical that we don't appreciate the hard workers? Like that we think that was, some people are trying to say that was staged for attention. I don't think Kobe Bryant does much for attention. He gets enough attention himself.
I think ultimately what you do in making those decisions, why he did it, look at his body of work. Here's a guy from day one that has outworked everybody in uniform, and he's been consistent with that.
And I love what Doc Rivers said. He said, why is it always the great players that go above and beyond? Why don't we see someone like of mediocre ability in the NBA doing that? Maybe that's why they are who they are too.
But I bet, you know, I bet there are a lot of guys who do that, not to Kobe's extent, but do that. It's just they don't get the publicity of it because they're not Kobe Bryant.
And let's not forget, this was in Miami. So there were other things for a young, successful basketball player to do. This was in Miami where he stayed after and got shots.
But by the way, Doc Rivers did say that if he did it in Boston, he would have ordered the crew at the Boston Garden to turn the lights out so he couldn't shoot there on their court. Because
I would have too.
You know what he's probably doing? He's picking spots on the floor in case they play the Heat in the finals to know exactly what feels good.
And guess what? Phil Jackson would have had the lights turned out on Paul Pierce and Ray Allen as well.
Probably would have.
Some good old-fashioned rivalry, dislike. It's always good for the NBA.
And it would have been your ball boys or your coaches rebounding for him.
Right.
I'm not having my guys rebound.
Listen, those Heat ball boys, you got to go. You can't have loyalty to two different groups. Either you're with Wade and James, you can't be riding the fence.
No, when you sign up as a ball boy for a game, you work both teams. You have to do that. That's your obligation to the end of the evening, right?
They get paid double.
The evening ended at the final buzzer.
For overtime, do they get paid time?
I bet you Kobe's a good tipper, though.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Or maybe not. You know, some of the richest people aren't great tippers.
Here we go.
Oh, man.
I want to hear from Kobe Bryant if he's a great tipper or not.
Nice save from Duham, but right to Dowdell, and Dowdell knocks down the shot.
That was good defense, though. The Magic. I've been much more impressed with the Magic's effort defensively here in the second half.
Well, first half was not a good one for either team defensively. Richardson throws it inside the pass. Ryan Anderson off the mark. Anderson reverse. That won't go.
And if the Magic aren't careful, it's going to be same old, same old. where they're not taking care of possessions offensively. You got to convert those layups. This isn't a 24-point game. You got to play it like it's a game, a possession that matters, versus flipping the ball up at the rim.
The crowd has gone silent. Some of them have left as the Phoenix Suns turning in their second straight poor performance here at home. And again, they had been on a nice run prior to the loss in Denver. Obviously, without Steve Nash, it's a complete different team as Dudley fouls Duhon. They just need to hope Nash comes back soon. He makes such a difference in so many ways.
I would fly out to Houston. They play in Houston tomorrow. Every doctor in Phoenix to work on his pelvic instability. I have to get him ready to play tomorrow.
Well, you can watch your favorite team at home, on the road, anywhere with NBA League Pass. No better way to follow all the new faces in new places. Call your local cable, satellite, or telco provider today, or log on to NBA.com/League Pass. Tough afternoon for the young Suns fans. In fact, when we were walking out right before the game, one little kid right by where the players come out had a big sign, "I love Steve Nash," and I just didn't have the heart to tell him he wasn't playing.
Was that Alvin Gentry? Because that's what I would have been doing if I was Alvin Gentry. I love Steve. And you know what? Alvin Gentry, we can forget just last year what an incredible job that guy did as Pietrus hits another three. He got this team plus Stoudemire to the Western Conference Finals and was playing the Lakers great. This guy, he's a very good coach.
They were in the conference finals. The series was tied at 2. They lost game 5 by 2 points as Bass knocks down the shot. So they were right there. See Dan Marley sitting next to him, the former Suns player who's in their Ring of Honor here. Dudley's shot won't go.
How about the fact that we get it done here, because you present questions and you try to get answers. Well, Lisa Salters, our dynamic sideline reporter, just got a text message from Kobe Bryant saying he is a big-time tipper. That's getting it done.
Well, we want to, how much did he tip the kid that night?
You can't ask a second. You don't have a follow-up question.
Sure you can.
This is not a presidential.
I don't know.
No, it's not. I agree with you, Mark.
Well, but how about?
But I wish he would have provided more details, though. Like just the percentage, not the actual number. Just the, am I at 25?
Your version of a good tip might be different than his version of a good tip.
I'm a great tipper.
No. I don't mean your own tips. I mean
at the Good Egg here in Phoenix, where I ate breakfast the last couple of days as I was eating with my mom and dad and going to spring training games. I was getting it done.
You paid?
Yeah, because my mom and dad took care of the room. Can you believe my mom and dad were taking care of my room? What a great mom.
How about the way you just said that? My mom and dad took care of the room. Are you serious?
They did. That was very nice. 3 days with them watching baseball.
That's not a grown man move, man. You're supposed to take care of everything.
My mom doesn't listen to me. By the way, Jared Hoffbauer, second base for Padres, very impressed with him.
What's his last name?
Hoffbauer.
Ball stolen by Pietrus. Ahead to Dowdell. And Dowdell is fouled. He'll go to the line, and we'll have a timeout. Just past the midway point here of the fourth. It has been all Orlando in the second half, led by Dwight Howard. Continues his brilliance of this season. 26 points, 15 rebounds, 5 block shots for the best defensive player in the NBA.
Thanks for watching ESPN on ABC, home of the NBA Finals.
First half, Brandon Bass in help position, guarding Childress, stays on his man, does not stop the basketball. Second half, Dwight Howard, same opportunity. Aaron Brooks comes off, contains the basketball, forces it away from him, allows the defense to recover and contest. Outstanding defense, the difference in 2 halves.
And you see the defense, the field goal percentage for Phoenix in the second half, 26%. Howard had the 5 blocks, but does so much more than that. It's great rebounding. As Dowdell to the line for a couple. Dowdell's a guy glad to be playing even in a situation like this. He was a good player at Virginia Tech, but was not drafted back in 07. Wound up playing 3 years in Europe, in Italy, and in France. 2 stints in the D-League. Finally got a 10-day contract here with Phoenix. then a second 10-day, then signed for the remainder of the season. Earlier this year, he was taking 8-hour bus rides in the D-League. He turned down a lot of money back in October. They offered him $750,000 to play over in Europe again, get another year, but he so desperately wanted to play in the NBA, he signed a $13,000 contract to play in the D-League. Gave up, and that's huge money for a guy like that. And he just so wants to play in the NBA, figured he had a better chance of being noticed in the D-League than over in Europe.
That's a huge economic gamble. Glad it paid off for him.
Well, they say he's working so hard, and knocks down the shot. The lefty again was a good player, especially his senior year at Virginia Tech. Was an all-ACC player, all-ACC defensive player.
When you take that type of gamble, that's saying you believe in your ability to get it done on this level.
Arenas can't finish. Lopez the rebound. Largest lead was 28. Magic have led the entire game as Beatrice hits a three-pointer.
I'm going to say this. It's 16, but with this group in for Orlando, they will have a hard time scoring. I would do this. They're bringing back some people to make sure you can't keep messing around.
Arenas gets that one to go. Arenas has had a solid game. 11 points, 5 boards.
Oh, what am I saying? Go sit down. This game is over.
Thank you. I was about to tell you the same thing.
No, really. I can see why Stan would do it as a coach, because you get crazy, but he's bringing him back. I would have too. Like, what's wrong with me?
Well, they've got a big game tomorrow night in Los Angeles. We'll have it on ESPN as Ryan Anderson hits the three.
And the reason why is because the Phoenix Suns have shown me nothing defensively that tells me they're going to get enough stops to climb back into this ballgame.
But if you look at that the Orlando Magic team right now, if you were Phoenix, you should be able to get stops against this team.
You're right, but it's a mindset. You got to be dedicated and determined to get stops and compete, and they haven't done that all game long.
Arenas draws the foul, banks it in, and one. Nice shot from Arenas. Now 13 points, lead back up to 23.
This is the old Gilbert Arenas. Lulls you to sleep, and then all of a sudden a burst of speed. Not the same, but still has the ability to score the basketball. Gets the contact and the basket.
This is going to be the first Orlando win here in Phoenix since 2001. They've lost the last 8 years they've been here. Last time they defeated the Suns in Phoenix, Grant Hill was a member of the Magic, and so was Patrick Ewing. Yes, of course, the assistant coach for Stan Van Gundy. First win in Phoenix in Dwight Howard's career. Nice follow-up, can't go. And Garrett Seiler, the rookie from Augusta State. And the last one will not count. Foul before, I believe. We'll have a timeout. This one was decided in the third quarter when Orlando outscored Phoenix. Now they lead by 24 as we wind it down. This week, tomorrow night on ESPN, the Miami Heat host the San Antonio Spurs. This Magic team will be in LA against the Lakers. NBA TV Tuesday, Dallas at Portland. And then TNT also doubleheader on March 22nd, Chicago at Atlanta, Phoenix at the Lakers. And then ABC on April 3rd, Phoenix at San Antonio, and the Lakers host Denver. So with under 3 minutes to go, you see J.J. Redick in street clothes. Redick with an abdominal injury. He's day-to-day. Don't know if he'll play tomorrow night. They have not missed Redick today, but they would on any extended. He has had a good season for them.
Here's something you would probably disagree with. These 5 guys on the floor for the Phoenix Suns would win the NCAA tournament. Come on, man, they're pros, man.
Well, let me just I got to evaluate if they have enough size. If they have enough size, there's no doubt they would win the NCAA.
Okay, thank you. Ooh, I was worried about you.
No doubt?
No doubt.
No doubt. But I'm going to say this. I would be concerned. I'd be concerned against the zone. I'd be working my zone offense hard.
You wouldn't want to face Syracuse in the first round.
No. Listen. Plus, Syracuse got some size. Rick Jackson.
There's Earl Clark. Didn't get a lot of major minutes today. Clark, one of the other players traded from Phoenix. Good active body.
And Mike, they think he can be a good player.
Your brother said before the game today he thinks he can be a great defensive player. He just has to learn the NBA. He doesn't say great defensive player. It says chance. He has a chance to be.
Right.
But he doesn't say that about a lot of people.
He's long. He's got good feet.
He never said you had a chance to be a great broadcaster.
Nor would he ever. Well, I don't think he would put great and broadcaster together.
Anything with regards to media. Quinn Richardson spots up and misses badly. All right, as we wind down this blowout here in Phoenix, your MVP candidates, you both put Rose first?
I definitely put Derrick Rose first when you talk about what he's done with the Chicago Bulls this year. Outstanding season. Then Howard and James in the discussion also. It's going to be interesting to see how they close out the season. But I got Rose running away right now.
I think Derrick Rose has to be your MVP. And I would say this. Has there been a more unlikely, from the start of the year to the end of the year, MVP run than Rose has put together? He believed in himself earlier in the year. He said, why not me for MVP?
Right.
And my response was, LeBron James, that's why. But look at what he's done. I mean, plus, forget the numbers. It's also the humility, the work ethic, the coachability. And he has brought his team to a much higher level than anyone could have expected, particularly with the injuries. And
he's much improved defensively. Tom Thibodeau's really helped change that entire defensive mindset in Chicago. And they've dealt with major injuries. First Boozer, then Noah. Petrus and Clark with a foul.
But I love, even in shooting those commercials in the offseason, spending time with Derrick Rose, his mentality, his questions. He wanted to be great, and he paid attention. And you can just tell this guy is a special basketball player with a special approach to the game of basketball, and that's the reason why immediately he gets it.
Well, someone in Chicago told me that's at practice every day that he'll sit at a film session, and before being dissected by the coaching staff of what he did right and wrong, he'll watch a play and say, that's my fault. That's my bad. I've got to do better at that. Listen, when you have your best player doing that, it is so much better to try to coach your team. And that's not to take anything away. I think Dwight Howard, I'd put him second right now. I think what he's done at both ends of this floor has been terrific. And LeBron James is so good, it's almost hard not to vote him MVP.
Although you can make the claim in some ways, and again, Miami still, and I agree with you, they can still certainly win a title, but they've underachieved a little bit in terms of what their expectations.
I don't know. I don't agree with that at all.
That's morons like me. That was like morons like me who thought it was going to be easier than it was. See, not having coached in a couple years, you forget it's hard. It's hard to win. And I should have understood just how hard it was to win. Plus, guys taking a lesser role, they had to share more. And every time they go on a little bit of losing streak, you see where they start to crack, where I want the ball more. That's much harder than it appears to the outside, and that's where I was wrong.
But don't you think still with all the home games that they had, that they certainly capable of winning, not winning those stretches? And again, I'm on their side. That I think they're still the work in progress and can win a title. But most people expected them to be better.
Most people that never played or never coached or never understood.
You thought they'd go through this many struggles this late in the season?
I thought they'd have tough times. The reason why is because as a player going into Miami, playing against the Heat, they're going to get my best. I'm going after them. And that's not just my mentality. That's the 12 guys on my team's mentality. The coach doesn't have to give a pep talk. We're ready to go out and take care of business. And that's what they face every single night.
They were the team that everybody wanted to beat and everybody wanted to play.
They're going to win mid-50s to high 50s. So you can't say it's it's a great season. It's just, I did think if Beatrice hits another three, I thought they'd be All right, even take it away from the, that stupid statement about winning more than the Bulls. Put it, I thought they'd be still like 64, 65, even when they struggled early at 9 and 8. I thought they'd have more of those streaks where they won, 10 of 11, 11 of 12.
Quentin Richardson comes up short, and the shot clock's turned off. So a wire-to-wire victory for Orlando. They go to 2-1 on this 5-game trip with the Lakers tomorrow night in Los Angeles. Foul on Malik Allen. Dwight Howard, another brilliant performance. 26 points, 15 rebounds, 5 blocks. He got the rest a little bit. Only had to play 34 minutes. Excellent defense in the second half. And their first win in Orlando, or first win in Phoenix, since 2001. And a good team win. 7 players scoring double figures. As for Phoenix, a very tough afternoon. No Steve Nash, no Channing Frye. And although Aaron Brooks was terrific in the first half at 19 points, didn't score in the second half, and Phoenix just didn't have enough as Orlando dominates in the second here to improve to 42 and 25 overall. So an easy victory for Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic here on the road as Howard dominates and the defense superb in the second half. We'll be back in Phoenix to wrap it up right after this timeout.